Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's your boy Rob here. Hope everyone's feeling good out there. On this week's episode, we're going to be covering Dancing with the Stars dedication night. As always, I'll be going couple by couple, giving my scores and some notes for each couple. This episode, we have 10 couples left. So ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see who the final 9 will be advancing for next week. With all that said, before we get started, make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. And one little side note, not that this like necessarily affects you guys, the audience, but just to point it out there, this will be the first time I record about Dancing with the Stars during the episode. So during each commercial break, I'm gonna be giving my take on whoever danced before they'll give in a commercial break. So I just thought I would point that out there. It's a new format I'm trying out, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys, once again, make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. Let's get into dedication night on season 34 of Dancing with the Stars. All right, guys, we're in our first commercial break. The first dance of the night was a salsa to Shake Senora by Andy and Emma, and he dedicated this dance to his daughter, Cornelia. I didn't know the backstory that, Andy was Cornelia's biological father, but it turns out, he met Cornelia's mother, and then he eventually decided to adopt Cornelia as his own daughter. So it's such a heartfelt story. And then to get into the dance, like honestly, a night like tonight, and specifically for this dance that he's dedicating to his young daughter, I think it goes beyond dance at this point. Like this performance tonight by Andy, Emma, and Cornelia brought pure joy to the ballroom, pure joy, across every household in America watching. And I had tears in my eyes watching during the dance, after the dance. It was just super emotional and heartfelt. I'm so glad that week by week we continue to see the big heart and the great human that Andy Richter is, and who better to be partnered up with than another big hearted, great person like Emma Slater. So I just think it's such a special, couple. And this goes beyond dance. Sometimes I focus here so much on just like the dance and, how they're doing performance wise. But at the end of the day, what makes Dancing with the Stars, extra special is the joy that it brings to millions of people around the country. And, Andy and Emma continue to do that on a weekly basis. So, congratulations to them on another heartfelt performance, and congratulations to Cornelia. I know they're going to have this moment, to look back at forever. So it's just amazing to see. And I can't wait, to hear the stories, God willing, in the future, when she's old enough and, she realizes how big this moment was for her and her dad out there on the ballroom floor. But all that said, I gave Andy and Emma a score of 6. And just to point out there, we do have a guest judge tonight, which is 2-time mirror ball champion Kim Johnson. So instead of an overall, a maximum of 30, each couple could reach a maximum of 40 due to the 4 judges. But that said, I gave them a 6, and they received a 6 from each judge, so they finished with a 24 out of 40. And now we'll see who comes next. All right, guys, back to you during the second commercial break. Our second dance of the night was a contemporary by Robert and Whitney. They dedicated it to Terry, who's Robert's mom. And the way I've never really done this before, but I think our 3 main judges did a perfect job of describing what this dance was. So I'm going to start off with a quote by Bruno. And he said, "This was the true expression of everlasting love." Now we have a quote by Carrie Ann talking to Terry, to Robert's mom. And she says, "I would want my child to be like Robert." Now we have a quote by Derek, and he said, "The world needs the Irwin family." I made sure to write down those quotes by our 3 amazing, main judges, because I completely agree with them. It was definitely a performance full of love and pure raw emotion, no holding back. Robert and Whitney gave it their all. They put everything out there, and they honored his mom in a tremendous way. So it was an absolute honor as a Dancing with the Stars fan to see this performance tonight. I gave Robert and Whitney a 9. They received an 8 from Carrie Ann, then a 9 from the rest of the 3 judges. So Robert and Whitney finished with a 35 out of 40. All right, guys, next up, we had a foxtrot by Elaine and Allan, a couple that's been one of the, pleasant surprises, I would say, so far this season. I feel like week in and week out, we see like these things out of Elaine that, she just looks like a pure dancer. And it's so impressive when you think of the amazing acting career she's had, that she's also a tremendous dancer. And then Allan, of course, such a beloved pro on this show and does a great job every season. So to get into this dance now, she dedicated it to her best friend, Lisa Ann Walter. They met on the set of The Parent Trap 28 years ago. So they've been best friends for 28 years. That's incredible. It's a rare thing to see, but it's an amazing, milestone, just an amazing thing to have, that connection, especially when they met at the end of the day as coworkers, and it turned into this, sisterhood, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. They danced a foxtrot, and Lisa Ann was actually part of the majority of the dance, actually, and I would say this trio did such a tremendous job. This is, in my opinion, Elaine and Allan's best dance of the season so far. And every week I have been impressed by them, but I feel like this one was at the top so far of what they've done, this season. And yeah, the chemistry between these two, has always been great. And then Lisa Ann, like for her to just fill in and, they did not miss a beat. It looked like she's been dancing with Allan and Elaine this whole season. And I know there's a couple mentions after the dance of Lisa Ann, this potentially being, audition for her to join season 35 next season. Obviously, that would be amazing to see. And yeah, I just overall very much enjoyed this dance. How I described it, it was beautiful to watch. It's always beautiful to watch Elaine, honestly. And yeah, they just brought out pure joy. And I feel like Elaine always does that along with Allan. And then every time we see Lisa and Walter in the crowd, she just brings pure joy as well. I gave them a 9, which is the highest score I've given them so far this season. They received an 8 from Carrie Ann, a 7 from Derek, a 7 from Kim, and an 8 from Bruno. So they finished with a 30 out of 40. All right, guys, next up, we had a contemporary by the couple I've been calling the best couple so far throughout the season. That is Whitney and Mark. And Whitney and Mark dedicated this dance to her husband, Connor. And he was actually part of the whole dance. And man, Connor looks like he's a professional dancer. So, shout out to him, because I think he definitely, after this performance, he should be a lock right now for season 35, in my opinion, because this guy, the way he danced out there, he literally looked like a professional, like contemporary dancer. So that was amazing to see. And, overall, another, super heartfelt dance. Obviously, it's dedication night, but the thing I really want to emphasize is that it could be dedication night, but the thing I really love is that each of these couples so far, they've truly, poured their heart out there to the ballroom floor. And yeah, once again, I'm going to say, unbelievable ×5 for Whitney and Mark. I feel like all their performances have brought pure joy to all the fans around the world. They just continue to do a tremendous job week in and week out. I gave Whitney and Mark's contemporary a 10. So, I've given them a 10 every single week. I've said it multiple times. I think she's an all-time great contestant. They're an all-time great duo. And now, like I said, Connor should be a lock for season 35, in my opinion. Would love to see him out there in the ballroom floor and see, what he could do on a weekly basis. But with all that said, I gave him a 10. And now we'll see what they receive from the judges. They did one of those things where Julianne's like, let's get to the scores. And then after this, so now I'm waiting during the commercial break, and, I'll report right back to see what the judges give Whitney and Mark. All right, guys. Whitney and Mark received a 9 from Carrie Ann, an 8 from Derek, an 8 from Kim, and an 8 from Bruno. So Whitney and Mark finished with a 33 out of 40. All right, guys, next up, we had Jen and Jan. They danced a Viennese waltz, and they dedicated it to Jen's mother, Maria. It was a beautiful dance, as always, by Jen and Jan. I feel like Jen always brings so much joy into the barroom, and then especially, with this dedication night dance for her mom. You just saw the pure love, and she just gave it her all, in order to honor her mom. And I thought she did an incredible job. And in my opinion, this dance on dedication night is the best dance so far for Jen and Yan. So I think that's a huge, step in the right direction in terms of the competition, right? But like I mentioned earlier, like specifically for this night, like dedication night, I feel like we just really gotta credit all these people for being so honest and, sharing their stories and being so vulnerable and emotional out there on the barroom floor, and allowing us to, take a little glimpse into who they really are as people, and who, some of the people have shaped them to be the people they are today. So I think it was a beautiful job by Jen and Yan, and I gave them a 9, which is the highest score I've given them all season. They received an 8 from Carrie Ann and a 7 from the rest of the 3 judges. So Jen and Yan finished with a 29 out of 40. And next up, we're going to have Dylan and Daniela, as Dylan dedicates the dance to his little sister, Olivia. All right, guys, next up, we had Dylan and Daniela do a contemporary, in which Dylan dedicated the dance to his little sister, Olivia. And another amazing aspect of this, the song was Rewrite the Stars, which is a song by Zac Efron from The Greatest Showman. So it's an all-around, Efron sibling involved dance here at dedication night. Yeah, overall, it was just absolute joy as always. I've loved watching Dylan and Daniela dance from week 1 all the way now to week 5, and they just continue to show progress week in and week out. Last week I said Dylan and Daniela are officially contenders, and now this week they're like, I mean, they're even more than contenders now, because what I've really pointed out is that Dylan has shown like such huge progress, right? Week in and week out. He hasn't really had any setbacks. He's just, risen positively upwards and to becoming a better dancer. And then when you have, arguably the greatest coach in the history of the show and Daniela alongside you, I mean, it makes it even better, and it allows you to, rapidly learn how to become a dancer in comparison to like being perhaps with another pro. But yeah, with all that said, to get away from the dance aspect, I mean, overall, it was just amazing. This dedicated dance that Dylan did for his sister, I think he gave it his all. It was all pure love, pure joy. And by the way, Olivia, his little sister, 5 years old, I'm telling you, she's an absolute star. The way she, danced with Dylan out there, and then the way she was able to like be so on point in terms of answering questions from the judges and responding to Alfonso, and she was so with it. And you don't really see that a lot of times with kids, especially, on general, like in person, they're usually shy, but to have her on national TV be so like have such a great personality, not like shy or nervous at all. I think it all makes sense when you think about it. It's in the Efron blood at the end of the day. So they have another star in the making there in Olivia. But yeah, with all that said, guys, it was just another beautiful dance by this amazing couple here we have on season 34 of the show. I gave them a 9. They received 4 nines from the judges. So right now they're at the top of the leaderboard with a 36 out of 40. Congratulations to them. Can't wait to see what else they do going forward. All right, guys, next up, we had a Viennese waltz performed by Jordan and Ezra, and they dedicated this dance to Jordan's dad, Timothy. And I gotta say, off the top here, to me, this was their best dance of the season. And I think Jordan and Ezra, week in and week out, specifically the last like 2 or 3 weeks, like they've shown like such like tremendous progress. And a dance like tonight, in my opinion, puts them into, contender status. Last week I had Dylan and Daniela along with Alix and Val officially hit contender status, and now I think we added another one to the group, because I think right now Jordan and Ezra solidified themselves as contenders. To get away from the dance aspect for a second, besides that, it was a beautiful dance overall. Really, we got to give praise to Ezra for allowing, Jordan and Timothy to have this moment. Timothy was, I would say more involved in the dance than Ezra was, which, like Kim Johnson actually said, that was a risk that, Ezra took, but it heavily paid off, and I totally agree. And as for Timothy, I thought he looked great out there on, as a dancer. You could tell, the pure emotion he had, and Timothy gave it his all for his daughter, and Jordan did the same for her father. So I thought that was beautiful to see, and it was also emotional hearing Ezra, saying he doesn't have a great relationship with his dad. Seeing this relationship between Jordan and her dad really healed him, he said. So that was really nice to see. With all that said, another really cool side note. So I didn't know this before tonight. So when Jordan was little, she had ADHD. So her dad decided to put her in gymnastics to help out with that ADHD. And, I would say that that's all God. God works in mysterious ways, and that's definitely God there. He gave Jordan ADHD, in my opinion, to, help her dad realize that she was something special. And, just, to put her in gymnastics to help her with that, with that, ADHD, and to see her blossom into an Olympic, all world, one of the best gymnasts of all time. And now to see her dancing on the biggest dance show in the world, I think it's incredible, and such a beautiful connection between this father and daughter. With all that said, I gave them a 9, which is the highest score I've given them all season. They received 4 8s from the judges, so they finished with a 32 out of 40. And here's a quote I wanted to point out. So Alfonso asked Timothy if he had anything to say to Jordan. He said, "I love you, and let's get to the top." I thought that was so cool, because he was able to, be emotional and show his love for his daughter, while also, reminding her to stay focused on what they're trying to do this season on the show. So I think it's really cool to see that. And overall, it's just, a beautiful thing to watch. All right, guys, next up, we had a foxtrot performed by Scott and Riley. They dedicated the dance to Scott's husband, Mark. At least for me, this was their best dance of the season. I feel like I've been saying that, repeatedly tonight, but I just feel, a night like dedication night, we might see more, rawness and vulnerability from all of these contestants, because, they would really want to make sure to do it justice in terms of dedicating, right? to the person they're dedicating their performance to. And I just thought Scott and Riley were completely in sync from start to finish. I thought Mark did a great job, appearing as well. And another really cool side note, the song they danced to is it's called Parallel, and Scott wrote it in honor of Mark the day after they fell in love. So overall, it was just beautiful to see their love story, and even better, during one of the rehearsals this week, Scott and Mark, surprised Riley and let her know that they're gonna be parents, and they found the surrogate to have a baby. So congratulations to Scott and Mark, of course. And I just feel like Scott put it all out there, and he truly, did a tremendous job of showing his love for his husband. And then with Riley, as always, she always does such a great job, helping her contestant, I mean, helping her partner and putting them in the best possible position to succeed. And I think Scott and Riley, to see the progress they've made from night one all the way now to night 5, just speaks volumes to, the dedication they both have put in and the work they continue to do to improve week in and week out. And like I said, this was my favorite dance of the season by them so far, so I'm super excited to see what else they do going forward. I gave their foxtrot a 10. And they received a 7 from Carrie Ann, an 8 from Derek, a 7 from Kim, and an 8 from Bruno. So Scott and Riley finished with a 30 out of 40. All right, next up, we had a jive by Daniela and Pasha. They danced it to Boy Meets World, the theme song, which of course is, Daniela's show, where she played Topanga. And she dedicated this dance to Bill Daniels, who played Mr. Feeney on the show. So to see her, dedicate it to someone she worked with for so many years, and was really like the biggest adult figure on that set with a bunch of kids. And like Danielle said, she was 12, and to see her dedicate this dance shows, the true impact that Bill Daniels has had on her life, and the rest of the cast from Boy Meets World. So I thought overall, like from a meaning perspective, it was beautiful to see. It's always amazing to see how proud Danielle is to be part of Boy Meets World. I get attached to these TV shows and movies, and when I really see the actors and actresses and producers and everyone involved with these projects, and they truly continue to show their appreciation and love throughout the years, it really hits different for me. And I feel it's something that we rarely see nowadays. I feel a lot of these actors now kind of criticize the show or movie that really gave them their first shot into fame and into the acting world. So to see someone like Danielle be is so refreshing, and I hope she's an inspiration for the future generations of acting. But with all that said, from a dancing perspective, it wasn't. I didn't think it was a great dance overall. I kind of agree with Carrie Ann, where she said it kind of some of her dances have felt a little repetitive, and I kind of agree. So, the hope here is that Danielle and Pasha are really able to, put a game plan together, God willing, for next week, for her to be more out there and a little more aggressive, perhaps, like Bruno kind of referenced in his comments as well. So overall, I gave Danielle and Pasha a 7. They received 3 sevens along with an 8 from Bruno, so they get their first 8 of the season. So that gives Danielle and Pasha a 29 out of 40. And next up, we'll have Alix, Earl, and Val perform the final dance of the night here on Dedication Night. All right, guys, so our final dance of the night was the Contemporary by Alix, Earl, and Val. And I got to say this, they saved the best dance for last, because in my opinion, as emotional and as heartfelt as, all of these dances have been, I feel like this one was 100% amazing from that aspect, but as well as the dance aspect of it as well. I feel this was the best performance of the night. Alix and Val continue to shine week in and week out. Last week I officially said they were contenders, and now they did it once again, and they're definitely solidified as contenders, just like I said earlier with Dylan and Daniela. So yeah, this was a beautiful contemporary. They dedicated it to her sister Isabel, and I thought it was really cool to see Alix, be so vulnerable with this story. Said that when she was 10, her parents got divorced. Then 2 years later, her and her sister found out that her dad was having a baby with his new partner. And, at first they were super emotional and like heartbroken. But she says as soon as she met her sister Isabel, that everything changed, that Isabel's the one that brought their family back together. So I thought, Alix completely embodied that on the dance floor, and as well as Isabel, she did an amazing job in the routine. She's 12 years old, and she looked like a star out there alongside Alix and Val. So overall, it was just an amazing dance overall. And like I said, my favorite of the night. And it's just incredible because last week I said Alix and Val's, Disney night dance was my favorite. This one was even better in my eyes. So congratulations to Alix and Val. I gave them a 10. they received an 8 from Carrie Ann and then 9s from the rest of the judges. So they officially get their first 9s of the season. And they finished with a 35 out of 40, putting them in second place right behind Dylan and Daniela, who finished the night with a 36 out of 40. And now we will get, our final results. So in this final commercial break, my gut is telling me that Andy and Emma will be heading home. So we shall see. I will report right back after the results we get here on dedication night. All right, guys, I just finished watching the episode, and I'm happy to say there are no eliminations tonight on dedication night. I think it's the perfect night to do it. At the end of the day, I kind of started off this episode saying, like, this night should go beyond the dance. It should be about all these amazing and heartfelt stories. And I think Dancing with the Stars deciding to not eliminate anyone tonight, I think matches perfectly and embodies exactly what this dedication night should mean. It should mean not just for this season, but going forward as well into the future. So, I'm super happy. It was another amazing episode, super special tonight. Extra special, I would say. A lot of heart, a lot of joy, a lot of love out there in the ballroom. So it was just amazing to see all these contestants, share these, super vulnerable stories. And it was amazing as well to have all these professional, dancers, allow them and assist them in sharing, these stories on the ballroom floor. So yeah, guys, episode 5 of season 34 is finished. And like I said, it was just extra special. Can't wait to continue covering this amazing season 34 of Dancing with the Stars. Hope you guys enjoyed, my thoughts on this episode. And make sure to, once again, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at @theflame_ES. If you guys want to send us your thoughts on the show so far and anything you're looking forward to into the future now, starting next week, Tuesday night, we'll have episode 6 of the season at 8/7 Central on ABC and Disney Plus. You guys want to share your thoughts? Make sure to reach out to us on Instagram and TikTok, like I said, @theflame_ES. Or if you're watching here on YouTube, get to comment down here below. But yeah, guys, with all that said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, everyone, take care.